Okay. Welcome to the Village of Gates Mills Council Meeting, November 9th, 2021. Beth.
Allworder.
Here.
Frankel.
Here.
Zog. Steinbrink.
Here.
Turner. Here. Welsh.
Yeah.
Whitney.
Yes. Okay, first on the agenda are the minutes of council meeting from October 12th, 2021.
Move approval.
Second.
Allworder.
Abstain.
Frankel.
Yes.
Zog.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Welsh. Whitney.
Yes. Next is pay ordinance 1255 for $381,140.48.
Move to approve. Second.
Allworder.
Yes.
Frankel.
Yes.
Zog.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Welsh.
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes. Okay, next is our financial statement.
Good evening. This is the Treasurer's Report. This month's report contains three sections: an analysis of the year-to-date financial results through October 31st, comments on meeting with the village's investment advisor, and an update on progress in respect of the 2022 budget. As to the year-to-date financial performance, financial statements were distributed in advance to the mayor, the clerk, and council in advance of this meeting. That's a good governance practice. The village is on very solid financial footings. October produced general fund revenue of $325,000. The village collected $181,000 of additional municipal income tax revenue and $138,000 of other source income, primarily $91,543 from the Cuyahoga County for reimbursement this year of 2020's road project material costs. In August, the village paid $348,000 for police, fire, service, and administration expenses. Beyond payroll and related costs, the largest cost was $70,000 to the Mayfield Village for the quarterly ambulance services that they provide. For the 10 months year to date, the general fund revenue of $7.1 million exceeds the general fund expenses of $4.6 million by $2.5 million. Revenues from real estate taxes and municipal income taxes are favorable to budget for those 10 months. Expenses are on or near budget, with most variances attributable to the timing of payments. The general fund cash balance remains at $7.7 million, representing over 12 months of operating results and operating needs. At this time, it appears the village will complete calendar 2021 with the current year 21 operating surplus well in excess of our planned surplus of $777,000. As to the capital improvement fund, in October, the village paid $8,000 from the capital improvement fund pursuant to the 21 road program as was budgeted. This brought the capital improvement fund to a balance of $528,000. We expect to spend additional funds in November, December to complete the road program. Again, the village is on solid footings and the surplus in 21 will be available in 22 and future years. As has been mentioned each month, the books of the village are on the cash basis. There are large variances based on when cash is received or expenses are paid. Month to month and year to year, it's not uncommon to have a surplus in one month and a shortfall in a following period. As to the investment review, on October 26th, the village financial administrator and I met with Ancora Investments. The village selected Ancora several years ago to provide investment advice with respect to the village's funds. The relationship has been good. Ancora follows the village's investment policy and executes transactions in accordance with that policy. The quality of investments in the portfolio is good, with all securities being of investment grade or better. The portfolio is rated AA. There is a possibility of improving our results by perhaps 50 basis points by permitting longer-term investment terms while maintaining the same quality of the investments. The village has investments maturing in the first quarter of 22, and so we will reconvene with the advisor and perhaps bring a revised investment policy to council for discussion. As to the 2022 budget, we are progressing. We're developing the budget for 22. The village finance administrator and I have met separately with the department heads and then with the insurance committee. The wage and benefit committee meeting is this Thursday. The budget and finance committee is meeting this Saturday. We are evaluating the revenue and the expense options noted in the long-range planning report of September 2020. Our objective is to create a budget for 22 and begin to address the longer-term imbalance of our future revenues and expenses. The report, as always, will be posted on the village's website. Happy to take any questions from council, the mayor, or the clerk.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'd like to supplement some of Steve's comments. I've done a little bit of additional analysis, focused first on our revenue. So I've gone back over the last 6 years and looked at where we were at this point through the end of October versus where we finished up the year. Interestingly, in every single year, we've already gotten all of our real estate taxes. We don't get another penny for the rest of the year. So what we're seeing right now, 2,364,000 is what we're going to get. If I looked at the average real estate tax revenue for the last 6 years, the average is 2,368,000, and our number for this year is 2,364,000. You can put a ruler to our year in and year out real estate tax, and it is absolutely flat. When you look at our income tax, we were very conservative in our budget for the income tax revenue. And this has proven to be pretty accurate, actually. In the last 6 years, we've averaged over the last 2 months of the year getting an additional 270,000. No guarantee of that, but if we did see that same average this year, then we would end up with income tax revenue of 4,240,000. We all know that that's a particularly strong because of our windfall early this year. But that windfall was 2.1 million, which means that the recurring, so to speak, income tax revenue for the year is likely to be 2.1 million. The average for the last 5 years has been 1.7 million. So over and above that one-time tax receipt, we may have experienced a very strong surge in income tax revenue this year. Now, who knows and how we're going to budget for that? 400,000 more than we would have expected, given past performance. Whether that carries forward will be an interesting dilemma on how we budget on Saturday, et cetera. If you add all of that up, we are going to incur a lot of cash outflow over the balance of this year because we haven't been billed for our Rhodes program yet. They literally were doing some more road striping today. Dave is working on their case to make sure we get the invoice and pay it before the end of the year. So we're likely to be pretty much on budget, at least that's Dave's thinking at this point, on the capital expenditures. That's going to be another $800,000 that'll come out. But assuming that we are on budget for all of our expenses, our budget said that the balance on all funds at the end of this year was going to be 6.4 million. We're likely to be 700,000 higher in revenue, maybe more than that. And we're not going to pay the bill on we're not going to get charged for the plow truck that's going to hit us next year, which we'll address on Saturday in the budget meeting. But so we're likely to finish up this year at more like 7.2 million, 7.3 million cash balance for all funds going into this next year. So, again, to support Steve's point, we're certainly going into a time when historically we've been or not historically, but in our long range plan, we were forecasting possible deficits, but at least we're going in with a very strong cash balance. So just to supplement Steve's point.
I have two things. One is that that excess cash balance will increase our Ancora results as well over time. especially if you change the investment policy to be a little bit more aggressive. The second question I have is, have you heard any inclination about what might come out of the infrastructure bill in terms of our cities and villages getting any money for capital improvements? I just wondered if anybody's had any indication on that.
Not as of yet.
But are they
I
going to
hope
give
to.
money
I
to
mean, they
the
just finally
cities?
passed it. I was reading part of it last night. I don't know. We'll
Okay,
have to wait and see.
just
We'll
curious.
send it to the
I
state
assume
and then
there's
we'll
some
file with the
speculation.
state.
Nancy, yes, you had the two comments. Yes, if we have extra cash, it'll be invested with Ancora. We don't intend to change at all the quality of the investments. We are looking at perhaps changing the terms. So rather than limiting their look-see to securities with 2 or 3 years, they could look at securities of 5 or 10 years. So the quality is not to be changed. It's the term that would give them more options to look at. Secondly, just the audience may not know this, we are limited by state law and other laws and their own regulations that our investments can only be in fixed income securities and only in the highest grade investment grade fixed income securities. So the fund earns 1.5, 1.75%. There is no chance to invest in equities, private equity funds, even high yield securities. So it is a very conservative set of policies and guidelines that we have to follow. And Chip, to your question, we have put a request into Rita on what they see as a range or possibility of income tax next year for the village. So,
Great.
well,
They've-
we'll see.
They've already said 2.1 million. They took out all the anomalies and 2.1 is what we would estimate for next year.
Wow.
Great.
Wow, that's a lot different than what we've had in our long range plan.
Yeah.
That's good.
And now you don't need to come to the finance committee meeting on Saturday because we all know the magical number. Any other questions?
I'd like to thank Steve for this. Is a massive amount of work and he's done a really nice job of really putting this in perspective. Also for possibly even justifying our own ambulance here shortly with this building costs we have.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay.
Any
Thank
other
you, Nancy.
questions? Okay, next is mayor's report. First off, I want to start by congratulating our new elected council members. We've got Lori Deacon, David Atton, Mike Press, and Craig Steinbrink. And I want to thank our outgoing Nancy Sogg and Larry Frankel for all their years of service. And we look forward to working with you in January.
Have we already thanked Ann Whitney as well? Because she's outgoing.
Sorry, Ann, I forgot. Next, I have a couple of thank you notes to the mayor and village council and department heads. Thank you so much for sending food to the funeral home. The family really appreciated it. In honor of her father, this was from our Jean, town call coordinator. And we also got a very nice donation to our safety fund to pay for half the cost of new in-car police cameras. So we've got some very dedicated and wonderful residents for that donation. That's about it. Next is clerk's report.
Nothing to report.
Okay, next is committee reports.
So I have a couple of different things to comment on. As far as the master plan process, Sandra, Karen, and I are actually working very hard on that right now. We've gotten a fair number of people indicating interest. We have people from 1.5 years, 2 years ago that had indicated interest. We're making a lot of phone calls. We keep coming up with other possible names, the new resident night, that successful event. Several people indicated they'd be interested in getting involved. We have the advisory committee. We have some subcommittees, one on outside perspectives, one on neighborhood, ambassadors or neighborhood co-captains, and then one on communications and PR. And so we're trying to look at, who might fit where and what. There has been a question about council members on the advisory committee. We've talked with our consultant about that. The master plan advisory committee, their role and goal is to come up with recommendations to council and the mayor. And so other than Sandra and I to have council members on the advisory committee to develop recommendations for themselves is it could be done, but it's probably more advisable to have the other people from the community and be getting their input. Hopefully, all the other council members will be attending the meetings and certainly listening and tracking how the process unfolds over the year. But we're not going to have any other council members on the auxiliary or on the advisory committee. We are working on starting to get things onto the village website. The process will hopefully, the introductory, so to speak, introductory meeting will be in January. There'll be some further meetings with our consultant between now and then, but so I don't know when we'll have all of these committees lined up, so to speak, but we're working hard to try to get it done over the next month. Do you have anything to add, Sandra?
The only thing I would say is just to thank,
Get the microphone.
just to thank everyone who has volunteered to serve on the, one or another of the committees for the master planning process. That obviously is going to bode well for what the eventual outcome is going to be. And we are reaching out to everyone that has offered to volunteer and talking with them about their interest and their capabilities and availability of time and coming up with a way to engage them.
And I would add that if you've gotten a phone call for Chip or Sandra and haven't returned it, please do.
Yes.
There's a lot of calls out we haven't heard.
There's a few of you out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to revisit the fact that I think council should be part of that committee too, so that, we're in the loop and can make suggestions.
Well, we certainly hope every council person and myself will attend them.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. But again, we're trying to really make sure we have as many people from the community involved in the process as we possibly can.
Oh, no, I'm all for that also.
So,
Great.
so next topic, Chagrin Valley Dispatch. There's been a formation of a finance task group to look at how the individual communities are being billed for the expense. Right now, it is pretty much simplistically add up the total call volume, take the community's individual call volume as a percent of the total, and we pay that percent of the total expenses. The only change in that was because 2021 was a COVID year, they simply increased the expense 1.5% across the board. So whatever each community was being charged in 2020, that charge went up by 1.5% in 2021. And then for 2022, there's going to be, I believe it's a 6% increase, again, based on the 2021 numbers, which were 1.5% over the 2020. The task force is challenged with, is there a better way to charge the various communities? And we've had our first meeting. It's mainly finance directors from 4 other communities and the mayor from Bentleyville and myself, and then the head trustee or whatever. I think he's the treasurer. He's part of the Chagrin Township. He's one of the trustees for Chagrin Township. He heads the committee. So we're hoping to have things and get some outcome from this sometime in mid to late spring is the tentative goal. So our next meeting is in early December.
At the risk of the chief choking me, I think we got to take a look at that whole number again because this has escalated way beyond what we thought we'd save and see if we can reestablish our own dispatch system and get Dorothy involved again.
Well, there's certainly a lot of technology. There's a lot of, 24/7 manning, but Ed, I don't know. I will say that the sense of every member of the task force is that every community entered this under the belief that as more communities were added, the cost should go down, and the cost has only gone up. So something else is going on, but we're trying to wrestle with that. So
Yeah, I'm just so tired of getting complaints with everybody saying they're talking to a foreign country. And, we had such ambiance before. I really like to look at it. I know it could go into the planning session. I said the chief will probably choke me, but it's missing. It's really missing.
well, that may be something to be considered. So third topic is our Rhodes Program. As you may recall, when we did the long-range plan last summer, Chris Courtney and Dave Biggert developed a 10-year outlook with certainly focus mostly, a lot of focus on the early years, what we need to be working on. We certainly accomplished a lot this year, including adding 70,000 to the Rhodes program this year when we realized that we had over budgeted for the Chagrin Mayfield traffic project there. This next year, now it's just preliminary at this point, but what we're trying to use as a guide for the budget meeting on Saturday is to do major work on Gates Road, Sherman Road, and then a fair amount of mill and fill on Hill Creek. There's also going to be the annual county program where they reimburse us for half of the reimbursement. Again, we haven't been approved for that, but that's anytime we look at the county roads, which is Battles, Berkshire, Brigham, Chagrin River, County Line, Gates Mills Boulevard, and Old Mill. So there'll be, if that gets approved, there'll be some mill and fill on some spots and some crack sealing and things like that on the county roads. But I would ask each member of council and those in attendance tonight are new council members starting next year. Drive Gates Road and form your own opinion. How dire, how much work does it really need? Because we're identifying that as one of our immediate roads that need attention. The same with Sherman Road and Hill Creek. Now, Hill Creek, of course, is right off of Gates Road, and it's always beneficial to have the roads at least be somewhat close so that the asphalt company is not driving all throughout the village to do little spots here and there. So those are the three main roads. I think it's just good to form an impression. And if you drive other roads and see, my gosh, I drove Gates Road and now I'm driving this road, and why are we prioritizing Gates Road? Hopefully we will have an answer, or maybe that's going to be in the 2023 plan or whatever. But if you have a chance, drive Gates Road, Hill Creek, and Sherman, and form your own impression. So,
Thank you.
my reports.
Oh, you want to do land conservancy?
Yeah, Land Conservancy, but first, let me try to get my mask off and not my glasses.
Microphone?
Okay, I'm ready. Just by way of a little bit of overview, Positively Gates Mills and the new resident outreach, because I think this is an ongoing consideration, and I just wanted to bring everybody up to date, kind of what the overview is. 2 years ago, the community club and the village got together to talk about what the new outreach program would be for new residents. And we put a plan in place that was going to get implemented in January, and then COVID hit. And so it got delayed actually until the middle of this year. So on an ongoing basis, just to let people know, there is kind of an individual outreach that's done by Shar from the police department. greets the new residents and talks with them about the services that are available, reminds them of reverse 911 and signing up for some Gates Mills Connect, et cetera. We are collecting that information also to be able to hold these new resident socials like we had on October 22nd that brought 26 new residents to this meeting. And it was a great opportunity for them to really get to know one another and find out about some of the services, whatnot. We had a table of information from all the different organizations. So that'll continue on, I'm hoping, a semi-annual basis. Finally, there needs to be ongoing information though. And, we have the pink sheet and we have Gates Mills Connect. Sometimes the new residents don't really hear about that or know about it or value the importance of all the information that's in there. So we're working to develop to enhance really what is a new resident site on the website, which will include something we've always talked about, which is, coming into the village, what do you need to know about some of the key ordinances? What do you need to know about services, amenities, et cetera? And that's going to get more regularly updated with the help of Susan Oros, who's a fairly new member of the committee. So any ideas, suggestions for continuing to improve that? But as we have so much turnover, it's really important to engage these new residents, and when we think about the master plan for this year, we really want to hear from those people. So all that we can do to keep them engaged. Topic of, go ahead.
Are you still doing the new resident packets?
We're not doing the new resident packet. And the reason for that is that it wasn't very successful. Janet Allwater, as a matter of fact, was heading that up. She would make calls to people or send them emails. There was never any response. And, if we took a packet, it was left there. There was no really personal connection. So we decided that was not the best way to go. So we've come up with these other options. So yeah, good question. Yeah, the packet is something that was done for quite a while, but it doesn't seem to work anymore. On the topic of land conservancy, there was a board meeting this morning. Certainly everybody, weighed in on the good results of the election. 76% voted to renew the levy, which is probably the highest percentage in many years. Rob didn't know how long, but he thought it was decades. So congratulations to everyone, including people around this table who supported that effort. I think it's a big success for all of us. The other main topic was the selection of 2 new board members to fill vacancies, and those 2 individuals were Celeste McClung, who is here, and congratulations to Celeste. And the other individual was Anthony Fazio from the village. I think he lives on Riverview. So those 2, Fazio, Anthony. So those 2 individuals will be voted on. So I shouldn't say that they're new board members. They're going to be voted on at the annual meeting on December 7th, I think it is. And we have a list of candidates. Should there be other vacancies on the board that we could go to. The nominating committee was John Kramer, John Kozak, and Cindy Altus.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. Larry?
Okay, I just wanted to remind everybody that we have the Hanukkah menorah lighting on November 9th or 29th. That's a Monday night. It's at 5:30 and everybody is invited, the entire community. So that'll be November 29th, 5:30.
Thank you. Anything else?
Want to start that now or do
Anything new on the cemetery?
There's nothing on the cemetery.
you want to do that, or do you want to have the committee, the police and fire and service, and then?
We could do that. Okay. Police department.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. everyone should have received a copy of my monthly report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'm getting 1,000 questions where they stand with the Tesla. Are you having any luck with it?
Well, we just had it outfitted, and we took possession of it last Friday. And there's just a couple of things that Hall Public Safety has to do to the car, and there's a good chance it's going to come out tomorrow. They'll come out to Gates Mills tomorrow and take care of that. But we did have it on the road today, had it on the road a little bit yesterday, and it's been pretty well received.
Oh, good. We're getting a tremendous interest in that from people I work with. Yeah.
Good. And we'll get that out there. We'll promote it. You'll see us driving it around for sure. Yes, not to be confused with the body cameras. We did apply for a grant through the state for the body cameras. There's a big push by Governor DeWine for the body cameras, especially for smaller agencies. So we feel pretty good about receiving some funding for that. So, we really want to focus on our in-car cameras. They're 15 years old and shelf life's about 13 to 15 years. So it's kind of a long-term project. We're going to kind of space it out. But, we did have a donation, and through the purchasing power of Chagrin Valley Dispatch, we were able to get a better price point. City of Euclid bought, 20 of them, and various other agencies. So that's one of the benefits. Another benefit, in my opinion, of having Chagrin Valley Dispatch, just because of the purchasing power that is offered to us. So the total cost is about $7,000 per car. So we'll be getting the total cost of the donation is $18,675. That's 50% of it. So it's about a $37,000 all-in expense.
Yeah, I think Jim's store originally donated those to others, and they've done a tremendous job for us, haven't they? We were one of the first ever to have those.
Yeah, and we started with VHS tapes. That's we're how we started, and it's all digital right now. So, and the nice thing about these are going to be WatchGuard cameras, and we will integrate when we do get body cameras. We'll integrate the technology with the in-car cameras, so it'll be good. One thing I thought I would mention, kind of getting a little bit ahead, but there's going to be an ordinance here regarding traffic cameras and whatnot. We do have tentative date for a community open house to discuss this. So we're going to go ahead and put that on the board probably next couple of days. The date on that's going to be Tuesday, November 30th at 6 p.m. right here at the community house.
What is it again?
Tuesday, November 30th at 6 p.m. And so we'll get it out there, Gates Mills Connect and all the various channels that we do that with, now. And then it'll also be going up on the board here in just a couple of days.
Since you brought that up, can I ask a question? You said the state originally recommended that we do this, and they would support it. If it's that important to the state, why won't they do it and then we support it, and then they would handle all the legal fees and everything when we get all these lawsuits and everything else we can anticipate?
Well, that and I talked to that's not exactly true. They didn't say we should get them. They asked us if we ever considered them, because I was in that meeting.
Same
So
thing.
yeah, so that's how that came up. But like I said, that's kind of where we're at here right now, and it'll be discussed, and we'll invite the community in. Tonight I believe this is the first reading here, and
It's just we'll be number one again doing something like this, and we're going to probably face a lot of criticism and compliments and a lot of expense, and they've got big pockets. And I just wonder if it's that important if they can make us a test site, and we'd certainly support them. I mean, we could do a good job at that, but they would take the brunt of this thing.
Well, like I said, I gave recommendations. It'll be up to the council to decide whether or not they want to move forward with this. There's, as with anything, there's different size to different stores. Now, we're not talking about the low level offenders. I want to make that point clear. And I'm not interested. We're not interested in going after people driving 3, 5, 7, 8 miles. That's not what we're talking about here.
Understand.
We're talking about the most egregious violators.
Understand.
I think it's also important to remember that we are not the only community that is doing the cameras, that they're being widely used in the area. that they have been used frequently in other areas, and these are civil infractions, and they haven't been lawsuits. So I think we considered that. We talked about that at the committee meeting. So I think there's a level of comfort about that, Ed.
Well, there's some disagreement about that, Larry.
So like I said, the community will be invited November the 30th. We'll get that out. I'm sure, the mayor and the council people will also attend, the members of the safety committee, which is, really this whole thing got started, where it got started at. And so you know what I didn't bring? I have a couple emails from residents on Mayfield Road. I received two. I received one today, resident of Fox Hill who supported it. And I also had another resident on Mayfield Road in the West Hill Drive area who also supported it. Just wanted me to know that. So.
Okay.
If there's no other questions, that'll conclude my report.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Thank you, Chief. Next is Service Department.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. You should have received a copy of my monthly report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have one question. What about the polls?
Yes, so I did send an email requesting an update from ODOT. I did not hear back from them. I know from our previous conversations or communications, it's related with the supply chain. You just, once they were ordered, they just can't either get the materials or they don't have the help to manufacture them. So I will remind him, I've asked him for a potential date of when we may receive those.
It's way past what they had said.
It was supposed to end in late October, the project. So I will certainly follow up with him and send an email to council, and let him know any information I get from ODOT.
Okay.
Are you going to have the village Christmas tree lit up on Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving night, or?
I think we typically do turn them on that,
Okay, good.
yeah, that Friday, I think is when we typically turn it on, yeah.
Dave, question about number 3,
Mhm.
the delay of the
Yes,
truck and chassis.
yes.
How is that going to affect snow plowing?
Well, I mean,
Sure.
fortunately, we still have the truck we were gonna get rid of. I probably might, or I kind of plan to increase a little bit of our maintenance budget, not knowing, what that truck may end up happening with.
Okay.
But, it's just something we're gonna have to deal with it. And then I just deferred that money into next year's budget.
Because it sounds like the truck really won't be available for this season.
Oh, absolutely not.
the whole
Yeah,
season.
I mean, at the earliest, his best guesstimate is we would receive just the chassis in April. And then obviously it would need to go to Judco to get the plow and the dump body put on. So
Mhm.
no, it will not be ready for this year as we had, intended it to be, but it's a year behind.
Okay. So if we needed like to rent something, is that?
No, I think again, we still have the truck that it would be replacing. We have a backup truck and a smaller medium duty that again, if we have to pull that out to help, we should be okay. We should be able to still maintain the roads.
Okay.
Yep, we have a plan. No other questions? That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dave. Fire Department.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. A copy of the fire department report was in your packet, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
You happen to remember where we finished EMS, not last year, but the year before, in a normal year?
Well, last year wasn't normal.
No.
We are, we're ahead of last year because of COVID and those results. And I think that we're going to be a little bit above, where we anticipated. So as far as funding, I've already talked with Janet about that. We're probably going to have to transfer funding, because it's going to be a little bit higher. The difference is we will not receive a fourth quarter invoice until probably January. So we'll be catching up. You know, if we looked at the year in total, it would be higher, but we're not going to get that bill until
Okay.
2022. If there are no other questions, that concludes the fire department report.
Okay, thank you.
I have to apologize to the audience. We have a need to go into executive session and we need to do it now because the law director has a commitment and he's got to leave here in not too long. So I would like to move to go into executive session to discuss with the law director a dispute that is the subject of imminent court action, to consider the purchase of property for public purposes, and to obtain legal advice from the law director.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner, Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to go into that other room. And you have to be out of here by
When we go in
7.
the other room.
Yeah, so we should be 20 minutes or so because the law director has to leave by then.
We're,
Okay, see you soon.
microphones are back on. Thank you, Todd. Okay, now we need a motion to come out of executive sessions.
Second?
No? Come out? We
Oh,
don't?
we don't.
Okay. Fair enough. Next is ordinance 2021-36. Larry?
Okay. Just to review that, the reason we're doing this ordinance is because of the unsafe conditions on Mayfield Road, the excessive high speed and the lack of ability to enforce speed control. And having lost 2 police cars and 1 police officer for 2 years, we decided that this was necessary. So I'm proposing the ordinance number 2021-36, ordinance enacting Gates Mills Codified Ordinance, Chapter 318, Automated Speed and Traffic Enforcement Program.
First reading.
That's first reading. So I'd like to move,
No, there's no.
You don't have to do anything.
no, okay.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
Okay.
Next is resolution 2021-37.
Okay, this is the resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Census Gatso Group for an automated photo traffic enforcement system. And that also is first reading. Correct? Correct.
And obviously totally tied to the first ordinance.
Excuse me?
Obviously, totally linked.
Totally tied to the first previous ordinance, correct?
Okay, next is ordinance 2021-38. Ann?
I'd like to introduce ordinance 2021-38, an ordinance authorizing a contract with Aetna Healthcare to furnish and provide hospitalization and healthcare coverage for village employees and declaring an emergency. And, well, we had an insurance meeting. It was riveting. And, and Aetna did offer, and Janet, please correct me if I'm wrong, that if we go ahead and adopt this and renew, that our the increased plan will increase 2% versus 5.5. So for that reason, if we do this within, before 30 days ahead, I'd like to save the funds. So I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Alberter,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Fogg,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner. Yes. Welsh.
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes. And I move to adopt ordinance 2021-38.
Second.
Second.
Alberter,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Fogg,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner. Yes. Welsh.
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Next is ordinance 2021-39. Ann?
This is an ordinance authorizing a contract with Delta Dental to provide dental insurance coverage for village employees and declaring an emergency. And because we'd like to renew in a timely fashion, I move to suspend the rules.
How much is it? Now, does every employee get this or they elect to get it? Dental. Well, I mean, the health coverage obviously for everybody, but maybe the different way to say it is, does everybody everybody that has health has dental? Okay.
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay. Okay. And how much of an increase?
So Delta Dental came back originally with an 8% increase, and then they, after some discussion, went to 6.02, and we've ended up at 4.8% increase. However, the last 2 years, they have held steady for us. So 4% is not great, but I think it will be an additional expense to the village of just under $7,000, the increase. So I'm moved to suspend.
Second.
Alberter,
Yes.
Frankel.
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner. Yes. Welsh.
Yes.
Whitney. Yes. I move to adopt ordinance 2021-39.
Second.
Alberter,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes. Next is ordinance 2021-40. Ann.
I'd like to introduce this is an ordinance to amend the annual appropriation ordinance number 2021-4 to increase certain appropriations and other expenditures of the village of Gates Mills, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021. And I move to suspend so we can do business.
Second.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes, I move to adopt ordinance 2021-40.
Second.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes,
Okay, next is resolution 2021-41. Ann.
I'd like to introduce 2021-41, a resolution authorizing and directing the transfer of certain sums from the general fund to the wastewater fund. And so that we can do business, I move to suspend.
Second.
Allworder.
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh.
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes, and I move to adopt resolution 2021-41.
Second.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes,
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is business from the audience.
I'm Brett Stewart, 7520 Rhodes Program. And I had a discussion with the police chief, Greg, about this camera stuff. And it's important.
Can you go closer to the
Oh, sure.
microphone? Can't hear you.
So it's important to have this discussion with the public, and I'm glad that he has tabled it because it is very controversial. There's lots of people that sit there and go like, speed cameras are outlawed in Cleveland and in 18 states, right? And there's lots of people that have done this that can tell you about, fewer violations, be it speeding or red lights or accidents. But to say that it's going to stop you from doing, are going to be the preventative for egregious speeders, I think that's not going to be the answer for public safety. I mean, you can have a story that goes along the lines of, George from Geauga goes to the Winking Lizard in Mayfield and drinks his face off after the football game and then drives back going 75. And, you take a picture of his license and he gets a bill and maybe fights it. And after it's all said and done, he's just paid a fine. Nothing more than has happened. So 2 weeks later, he comes back and does it all again. This time, Aunt Greta is coming across Chagrin River Road in her 1970 K car, and he just whacks her. And what have you got from this, right? So you have to think this thing through, because it's not necessarily that you can sit there and take a picture of somebody that's really speeding, where the real answer is to take the driver's license away from this individual. So we need to have that discussion. We need to talk about, have we considered all the options? Maybe lowering the speed limit on Mayfield Road is an answer. Maybe doing the things like on Dead Man's Curve in Cleveland, which is rumble strips and signage and lights and all that stuff is an answer. But you have to make sure we get everybody on board so that we don't have an incident where, in other burbs of Cleveland, people have gone to referendum to stop this stuff, right? So to start the discussion is good. And from what I've read, it takes quite a long time to prepare for this thing, because you've got to do signage, you've got to educate people on how it's going to be done. All that has to be discussed. Anyway, that's my.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Caitlin Nemistel, 1140 Chagrin River Road. I just want to make a correction about what Council Frankel said. That is not true. The police cars that were damaged were not caused by speed. The first was a police officer pulled out in front of somebody, so it was the officer's fault. The second, the officer was parked behind a large truck, and the truck's brakes released, and which usually never happens, and that's what crushed the car. So I just want to make that clear, that those accidents that destroyed the police cars were not directly caused by speeding drivers. You have to look and see if cars are coming, and, drive responsibly, not just speed, which is not the cause of those accidents. So I just want to make that clear. Thanks.
I appreciate those comments. My sense was that one of the issues is that it is so difficult for our police to stop for traffic violation on Mayfield Hill. That under any basis, there's no real place to pull over, et cetera. I don't know that anybody's trying to say that the cars were hurt because of speeders. They're saying
Well,
because
that's
of
what it
the
was
nature of the
alluded to.
traffic.
And that's what bothered me. It was alluded that the cars were destroyed because of speed, and that's,
Okay. I think
yes.
it's,
So that's like false advertising in a way, in my opinion. And also, I drive up and down Mayfield Hill every single day. I live at the bottom of the hill. There are multiple hiding spots that I have seen where it's like, oh, that'd be a great spot, and there is 2 lanes. So as far as I can remember, I have never heard of an accident where a police officer stopped on the side of the road to help somebody. Has there been an accident where there's ever been a rear ending? So that's something to look into. I know it's a fast moving highway, and a police officer is pulled behind me when my car broke down on the side of the road, but that's why there's 2 lanes so people can go around. I think it's more dangerous to have bike riders on Chagrin River Road where you had to go around the bends and pass them. So that's my take on it, with all the winding bends and everything on Chagrin River Road, I'd rather I'm kind of jumping all over, but I'd rather have the police officers on the main roads slowing people down and seeing the drunk drivers. That was a great point. Or what if there was a car coming through? This is a high traffic area. I mean, it's a major highway. And to be honest, by living at the bottom of the hill, I don't know for a fact, but it looks like some drug drops occasionally growing up, being, late at night, kids running around, whatnot, it's a high drug trafficking area. So if you're only having cameras, what's stopping them from driving, to and from with drugs and, kidnappings, stolen cars? You're just going to find the license plate and say, oh, they were there. Great. You could have stopped them or seen it, firsthand. So that's my take. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Charlie.
Lisa Pilla, 6932 Mayfield Road. Yeah, I just want to say the whole thing about these cameras is just a total turnoff. It's Gates Mills. We don't need this. They do this. It's tacky. We're losing a lot of rights as it is in this country. And I don't think we need cameras. It's a highway. It's Mayfield Road. People don't go that. I mean, if they go a little bit over, whatever, it is a highway. I don't want cameras. It's ridiculous. We don't need that to just take pictures of license plates and send them to people. I don't think we need that. We have officers. If somebody's going that fast, they can pull the person over and give them a ticket or whatever. And no one does 45 miles down Mayfield Road. Everybody goes faster. It's hard to go to 45 when you're going down a hill like that anyway. They're at the bottom usually, but it's just the whole point. We don't need to be babysat. I don't want to see cameras in Gates Mills like that. It's ridiculous. We do not need babysitters. We have officers if you're doing something or going that excessive, whatever, but it's just getting really annoying about everything is dangerous and we have to do this and we have to protect everybody. Everyone needs to just stop it. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, my name is Charlie Baker. I live on Echo Glen. I also have property on Mayfield. I'm totally in favor of putting these cameras in. I think what you can't, the other thing you have to understand is the signage that goes with them is probably as important in terms of getting the speed down. I have noticed a significant increase over the 40 years that I've been here of the speed of the cars on Mayfield and the amount of traffic. It now takes me 2 or 3 minutes, sometimes even more, coming out of Echo Glen onto Gates Mills, or onto Mayfield. And I think I also think that the signs that we've had that which electronically show the speed of the car, and they've been put on River, they've been put on Old Mill, and I think they could probably use more of those and put those on Mayfield on at least on an interim basis to try and bring the speed down. But I think a combination of the cameras and the signage that goes with them will be important in pulling that average speed down. So I'm in favor of it, and people on Echo Glen that I've talked to are also in favor of it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay,
Move to adjourn?
Second,
Allward,
Yes.
Frankel.
Yes.
Fogg,
yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
yes.
Have a good dinner.